Symptoms I experienced when I was holding on to resentment. Hi, I'm Leanne, and welcome to my channel. I say this with love 33. Today is a topic that is very heavy and can do a lot of damage to us energetically, mentally, physically, emotionally, and that is resentment. I spent the first 54 years of my life living with resentment, unknowingly, but it was there. In hindsight, I can see it and I have been able to heal it and release it. And let me tell you, hey, don't do that, please. I am going to share with you how I experienced symptoms and what I did to relieve it. Resentment is something that comes in all forms, and it can be with a person that has maybe done you wrong, maybe disagreed with you, maybe it's a job, maybe it's a person on the road. But when you have resentment and you're harboring resentment, it is not doing the other person any damage. It is only damaging you. And like I said, it's going through your emotional state, your mental state, your physical state. Some of the symptoms that I experienced as I was harboring resentment, and I will say this was mostly like during my marriage to my ex-husband. I had passive aggressive behavior. I always thought of myself as the nice one, the calm one, the one that's not gonna like get all bent out of shape because I'm an empath. And I developed passive aggressive behaviors. I probably even had it before I was even married. But I would just pretend like things didn't happen, or I would be angry, but I wouldn't say it. And I might be sitting there like smiling, like, yeah, everything's okay. But inside I was just burning up with fire and had things to say, but I never allowed myself to say them. I just stuffed the feelings that I was having at those times to go down. I stuffed them down and didn't allow myself to, hey, we don't scratch at that. Sorry, that's mittens. Also, I was emotionally distant. In my marriage, throughout many of my years, I became emotionally distant because I harbored so much resentment for things that took place that I wasn't able to have boundaries to not let it happen. I had to learn things the hard way. And when you become emotionally distant, you're like numb. And it's a pretty rough place to be because as humans, and we're interacting with other people and, trying to have connection, when you have emotional distance, you're not having that connection. So you're basically like alone. You are in solitude, and it's not a positive place to be. It's a dark, unhealthy place to be because you have distanced yourself emotionally to not be able to feel and just harbor the resentment within. I was so tired. The fatigue was phenomenal. I wouldn't even know why I was tired. I was just tired. Now, pack the fatigue on top of coming into a time of life when a woman gets to age and you start having perimenopause and then menopause. There's already fatigue coming into play. But then when you're harboring resentment and your body is like in a fight or flight mode, I was like a cat in the ceiling for so many years because of resentment. My nervous system was shot. Like I was not in a good place. My muscles were like this, and my shoulders began to lock up and my hips began to lock up, and I couldn't even like raise my arms up over my head like that. A little sweaty, but I was unable to do that because my muscles were locking up. They were contracted. I would literally sleep with like one eye open for so many years because I was emotionally distant. I was unable to speak my piece and use my voice. I felt like I didn't have this enough space or worthiness in a room to take up space. I resented that. Like I didn't only resent like my ex-husband or things that were said or things that took place, but I ultimately was holding on to resentment for myself. And that is the heaviest place to be. Because when you have resentment towards yourself, and that brings on shame, and that brings on fear, and that brings on guilt, and those three things are such low vibration and so low, so low. It's like the bottom of the barrel on the chart of vibrational points, and resentment takes you down. If you're harboring resentment towards yourself, and we'll just stick with our own personal space of ourself right now, go in and heal it. Push into why are you resenting yourself? Is it mistakes that you've made in the past? Is it things that you said? Is it things that you did that you wish you wouldn't have done? Is it things that you wish you would have done but never had the oompa to go do it? Release that resentment towards yourself and just love yourself. Let it go. It's okay, because we are all perfectly imperfect and we're learning lessons here on this earth. And so if you're harboring resentment towards yourself, you're not going to be able to move forward and heal and feel lighter. My sleep quality was shot. I would not sleep well, and then that would make me more tired throughout the day, on top of my body being physically tired because of the muscle fatigue of being in fight or flight. And then all the rumination, and I just would keep overplaying and playing, like thinking situations and conversations and looking at the offense part of it to prove me right, which is not okay. There's two parts to every story, but the mind keeps ruminating and telling you like, oh, they're wrong and you're right. And that just is consistent, like throughout the day, when I'm going to work, when I'm driving, when I would come home and making dinner, all angrily harboring that resentment towards others. It's such a dark, heavy place to be. And I know there's a lot of you out there that do harbor resentment, because we're all the same. We're all the same. We might have a little bit of a different story, and we might have a different plot line and different family members and different situations, but we're all just human, and human nature is holding on to resentment. And when we can learn how to not hold on to it, that's the gold nugget. That is completely the gold nugget right there, because you will have feeling of like the weight of the world lifted off your shoulders. When I was able to go in and heal and release my resentment and understand why I was resentful and how I was creating myself to be the victim throughout my life, which I now know I wasn't the victim of my life. And that's a whole other topic. You have the choice. You can be a victim or a creator of your life. The first 54 years, I unconsciously chose to be a victim as I was learning my lessons throughout this lifetime. Now I am the creator of my life. But when I was able to go in and heal and release my resentment for my ex-husband, for the feelings I was harboring towards my mom and her not being able to be the mom that I wanted her to be, although I now know I chose her to be my mom to teach me lessons on this earth, I released and healed the resentment towards my biological father that abandoned me at 6 months old, and I know why that took place. I was able to release resentment toward the grandma that never showed me that maternal grandma love and just like made me her whole like sunshine of her life. Like I always wanted that type of grandma. Well, so I thought, but I called her in. So now I know. But now, and I am the grandma that just lives and just puts my grandkids on a pedestal. Like they are the sunshine of life. And being able to release the resentments that I was harboring, and then the significant one in that gold nugget is releasing the resentment towards myself. Shnikey, man, that was huge. Instantly, energetically, mentally, physically, I felt the weight of the world come off my shoulders. I felt like I had just lost 30, 40, 50 pounds. I was flying high. And this all happened during one of the seminars that I went to, which was Danny Morell, Awaken Your Highest Self, and during a breathwork session. And I was able to release the resentment and understand why I feel the way that I do and what I was holding on to. And as you've probably heard before, if you're holding on to resentment or you need to forgive somebody, do it for yourself, not for that other person. And that is 100% true. Couldn't be farther from the truth. Because when you harbor resentment, you're going to bring on, as you know, heavy, icky, dark feelings and energies. And it's going to turn into illness, and your body's going to start speaking to you, and you're going to get sick, and your muscles are going to start locking up, and you might even start having to go to the doctor or the hospital and getting diseases, and like it's really going into a downward spiral. And all that can be turned around with releasing the resentment. I can truly attest to that. Such a beautiful space to be. My muscle tension released. Yeah, I was going to get massages like once a week because I was so locked up in my neck and my shoulders. I began doing yoga, and hot yoga specifically, and slowly over time, because there's nothing that's going to happen overnight. This is a process that's going to take some mindfulness, some awareness, some new thought processes and mindsets to get you to a space where you understand why it's happening and why you are the way that you are, without judgment, but just observation. It's a slow process. And I was able to release some of this muscle tension through my hot yoga, through opening up the hips. Now, I'm going to say that probably took like about a good 2 years for me to fully get my shoulders and my hips back to a nice space. My shoulders, I still have issues, and I'm 4 years into my journey of healing, but there's 95% improvement, and I can lift my arms over, and I can wrap them behind my back, and I can do all the things that I used to do, but sometimes I have like a little kink in my like shoulder, and I don't know what that is, but I am so grateful that I even got back to the space that I am now, because when my body was locking up, I was only like, what was I, like maybe 48 years old or whatever, and I had always been active and running and doing fit camp and all the things, but I held on to so much resentment, and I was a people pleaser, and I was a codependent, and I had no self-worth or self-confidence. I was just completely at a icky space for many, many years. And I thought, God, I'm too young. Like, I was a preschool teacher, and I'm like, I can't even pick up the students when I need to pick them up. And I'm like, I'm too young to be in this state. Like, something's got to take place, because there's no way. I like just became a grandma, and there's no way on God's earth that I'm not going to be able to pick up my kids or get on the floor and play with them, my grandkids. So I kind of went through some dramatic awakenings and was able to go in to my inner self and do some deep healing and releasing. And I'm proud to say I can do whatever it is I put my mind to do. I can get on the floor and play with my grandkids. I can pick things up. I can lift my shoulders, my arms up over my shoulders. My hips are nice. I mean, everything is beautiful. I have turned it all around by releasing the resentment, and you can too. Another thing that helps with releasing resentment is letting you live in the present and be in the present and not the past. When you're holding on to that resentment, you're still back in the past. And living in the past and living in the future is not a good space to be. To find your inner peace and your strength and your awareness, you need to be fully in the present moment and grateful for everything that is going on in this present moment, whether it's a hard lesson, whether it's something that's uncomfortable, whether it's magnificent and beautiful. Take time to be in the present moment and be grateful for it. I was able to learn, after I released and healed my resentment, boundaries. I hadn't had boundaries like I had stated before throughout my life. I was able to learn how to build boundaries for myself and to choose me first before putting everybody else full, because I was pouring from an empty cup for years and years and years. And that's another space that I had resentment towards unknowingly. This was all unconscious, but now I know that. So putting up boundaries and respecting and honoring you and what your body wants and what is good for you and your time and what you want is not selfish. It's not like conceited and a ridiculous thing. It's an absolute priority. And I learned this the hard way. And I did carry resentment towards myself for putting everybody else first and not myself. And like the life in me was just like being sucked out of me to my own doing. But I released that and I healed that and I built boundaries, and boundaries are a must. Let me tell you, if you're a person, if you're an empath, a codependent, a person that does everything for everybody, no matter what, and you have no boundaries, stop and think about that. Put up some boundaries, because it's gonna come and run out your effort, your time, your energy, your love, everything you're able to have now that you think you have, but trust me, you're probably running on empty like I was. It's going to be able to come back when you can put yourself first. And better sleep came when I was able to release the resentment, because it's kind of like when you take a nice inhale in and then an audible exhale. Do that, feel that, see how good that feels. And the shoulders just relax. And your body just kind of, and your nervous system just kind of goes, ah. That feels so good. And when you are able to release the resentments, that's the mode your body goes into. Your nervous system comes down. You can activate your parasympathetic nervous system into rest and digest, not hypervigilant, okay? You like, this doesn't feel good. Even try it now. Do this, like squeeze every muscle in your body and feel like this and hold it, and even hold your breath and see how icky and contracted that feels. And then release it and let it go. See how good that feels. That is the difference between holding on to resentment and releasing resentment. It's basically so basic, but we as humans on this earth are not aware of it. And we don't even know that we might be harboring resentment, but it's something you can become aware of and push into. Yeah, sometimes things might happen that have been pretty significant and traumatizing. And I'll say, like, I'm like you guys, like I have been through some dark shit in my life. And as a child, I was raised in a poor income household by an alcoholic stepdad, a biological father that abandoned me. My mom was emotionally unavailable. The cops were always coming to my house because my stepdad would be having drunken rages and tearing the house apart, and we'd get ripped out of our beds and taken to a hotel one night, or multiple nights, getting ripped out of this school to go to the next school because we always had to keep moving. There was no stability. I was molested. Like, I grew up in such a probably typical environment that we all have some sort of traumas that we grew up in, but the grass always looks greener on the other side. So I always wanted to live like my friends. I always seemed to pick like best friends that were rich and had beautiful, stable lives. So I thought, but I was just a kid. I didn't know. But now looking back, and I'm like, oh my God, like one of them was one of their dads was a Colombian drug lord. Another one, like you name it, like it took, like nobody gets away scot-free without some kind of trauma and shit going down in their childhood that they carry out throughout their lives. But I went in and released those traumas and holding on to the resentment that I had for my family, you know, being in the space that they were and letting me experience the things that I experienced. But when you can understand that you came into this earth and you chose your parents to teach you the lessons that your soul came here to specifically learn, it helps you to have compassion and love and to see your parents and your family and whoever raised you in a whole different light. And that goes into the generational trauma, you know, because let's just say parents, if you were raised by one or two of your biological parents and they tried to love you unconditionally, but they didn't have unconditional love because they probably didn't know unconditional love because they have the conditions of, you know, maybe poverty, of not making ends meet, not enough food in the house. They have their own traumas. They have their own shit that they got to deal with that has never been processed. So that just carries on. And so then that goes back to their parents, so your grandparents, and then that goes back to their parents, so your great-grandparents, and it just keeps getting passed down and passed down. And, you know, we are the way we are, and we don't even know why we are the way we are, and a lot of it is generational trauma. And when you can go deep and heal and release the resentment and the anger towards maybe your mom and dad, maybe towards your grandparents, family members, whatever it is, it's gonna lighten you. It's gonna bring you to a beautiful energetic space. Your heart space is gonna expand. You can go in so deep with this, and I highly recommend to please guys, heal your resentments, let it go, because it is not worth it. It is not worth the weight of carrying the world on your shoulders for something that took place that you didn't ask to take place, and maybe you didn't want, and obviously you probably didn't even deserve. But everything happens the way that it's supposed to happen and when it's supposed to happen. So give yourself some grace, offer yourself some love, some self-care, some time, just some space to just be, and know that you are a beautiful soul and you are worth everything that you are without having to prove it or prove your worth in this world. If you have resentment towards yourself, release it. You're worth it. I do say all this with love. I'm gonna wrap this video up. Got Mittens over there, my assistant, tearing up the house as I'm filming. I appreciate you being here. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. If you know someone that needs help with any of the videos that I have on my channel, they are raw, they are true, they are authentic. It's me putting my story out into the world so that I can help heal others, because I have been on my healing journey for 4 years, and I started way down here at the bottom of the murky water like a lotus flower, and I have risen up to the light. So I'm putting myself out there to help you guys. All right, let's make this world a better place. I do say all this with love. Namaste.